entering the main auditorium, which consists of a main floor, which holds 2/3 of the seats. And then there is a balcony above, which we will see when we get down to the stage and reverse our view, which holds about 1/3. And one of the things that is really interesting about this hall is that most auditoriums of its day, and this was designed in 1939, but most auditoriums at that time were having what was known as the proscenium arch, and that separated the stage area from the audience area. And frequently you would see the proscenium arch would be where the curtain was that would close between acts or scenes or any of that. This hall has no proscenium arch, no curtain, and all of that was very deliberate on the Saarinen part as a method to unify the audience and the orchestra. The wood here is Primavera, which is a light-colored version of mahogany that is a tropical hardwood. And again, the acoustics are made visible by the wall panels, which are a combination of perforated and solid. So the perforated ones do the absorption of the sound, whereas the solid ones do the reflection of the sound to make sure that it carries equally all the way to the back of the hall. So we're on the stage now of Kleinhans Music Hall, and you can see what an impressive unified space it really is without having any proscenium that divides we, the people on the stage, from the audience itself. The stage is quite a remarkable device in itself, where the front third of the stage is actually an elevator from this point out to the edge. This can be lowered down so that it's at the same level as the floor. If you have a small performing group, but you want to increase your audience size, that floor can be dropped down to that level, or it can be dropped down to the basement level where the concert grand pianos are stored, and so that when there is a pianist here, they lower the stage down to the basement. They roll the piano out from the special storeroom, which is climate controlled, put it on the stage, and up it rises for the performance. The back wall of the auditorium is convex, which is as opposed to all of the side walls and the rear wall, which are concave, so that the sound, the orchestra playing music, the sound is bounced off of this back wall and sent in a whole series of rays out to the full audience, which is why it is convex. The open doors on either side of the stage lead to the dressing rooms and to the backstage activities such as musicians' lockers, that kind of thing. And as you look up at these side walls, particularly in the rear of the balcony, you see a series of openings in the wall which lead to the emergency exits. And those, when we were outdoors, looking at the building from the parking lot side, we saw those whole stepped affairs of brick masonry. And so you can see that those were the exits, and that the roofs of those stepped affairs correspond to the locations of the doors. Okay. Let's take a look at the little recital hall. This is the third element in the composition. It's not a very large element, and so it doesn't have a special form that indicates it on the exterior of the building, the same way the Mary Seton Room did, and the main auditorium. It is used for recitals. If people are having young piano students, for example, are having a piano recital, they can use this room. It's also good for meetings, and it's especially good for star performers who are warming up prior to a concert. And if you're a soloist, for example, and you're warming up before you go on stage, let's say you're a pianist, you're doing your warm-up in here, and the acoustics of the room are such that they are a miniature of the main hall itself, so that when someone is playing in here in the warm-up, they will know exactly how they sound how they will sound in the main auditorium. And you can see that that's really somewhat in the shape of the room. There is the concave arc on the back wall, and the side walls are splayed, although they're not splayed exactly the same as the main auditorium. But there are also all the perforated areas in the ceiling, which echo the perforations in the main auditorium, as well as the hard surfaces, so that we have areas of reflection as well as areas of absorption. Extremely contemporary, and again, this was 1939. Most major public buildings were designed in the classical revival style, using all sorts of historic devices, such as the Beaux-Arts, or Gothic revival, or Egyptian revival, but it was an era when a lot of people were doing revival kinds of architecture. That's what's so refreshing about this building. It is so contemporary. It is contemporary to this day, and we're talking about some 60 years after the building was actually completed. It's just as contemporary and fresh as it was then. And now we're taking a look from the mezzanine, and which overlooks the lobby, as well as when the large doors are open, it opens directly into the Mary Seton Room, which is really a wonderful vista within the building. Look at the view of the hall from the balcony. Which I think these are the best seats in the house, because you really see the panorama of the entire performance. One of the things that I mentioned when we were out in the parking lot looking at the exterior of the building was the challenge that Saarinen had regarding the scale of this large mass of the auditorium, and that he didn't have devices to help break down that scale, which is why he ended up using the fire escapes, or the emergency exits. But what this all leads to is an idea about what this building is really all about. Important buildings, or good buildings, are, in my mind, always about something, and some big philosophical idea. And I think in the case of Kleinhans, it's about containment of people, containment of sound, and exclusion of the outside world. And you can see that in the opacity of the walls, the exterior walls. We've seen very few openings. There are some down on the first floor for places like dressing rooms or offices, but by and large there are none. And the way those emergency exits work that go down the sides of the building, they add another layer to that whole assembly of the outside walls. And in a sense, they're almost like arms that are reaching around and containing or sheltering the main auditorium. I really want to encourage you and everybody to come to this building when there is music. When there is music, the building is alive. When there is no music, the building is asleep.